Hello, friends, and thank you for joining us on Charting the Way Forward, where we deliver research-informed strategy and intelligence from across the Democratic coalition. This podcast is produced by Way to Win. I'm your host, Kerry Eleveld, and today I am joined by...
Hi, I'm Tory Gavito, president and co-founder of Way to Win.
And Dan Ancona, consultant of destiny. I'm going with
or DJ. I did catch the last pod that I was not on, and I did hear you say, what did you call yourself?
DJ and consultant of destiny.
We're going to start having DJ sessions from Dan in these, just to spice it up a little bit.
My friends have been begging me to do that. I have like two friends that are like, you have to combine them. I don't know.
Why not? You know, a little bit of joy.
All right. There you go. Yeah. Right. Well, today, though, we have a total in-house crew to talk about a bunch of issues that are percolating in the Democratic family. We brought Tory in to, dress the place up a little bit, class it up a little bit, because I've got my hoodie on. Dan, I think, is in a T-shirt, but Tory, she looks good. She's ready. She's ready to, go to court, whatever is necessary.
I got my notepad and my pen.
she's cracking skulls and taking names, darn it. All right. So the things we're covering today: the Supreme Court's evisceration of the Voting Rights Act, Maine Governor Janet Mills exiting the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate in that state, and an interesting nugget out of San Francisco in the race to succeed Nancy Pelosi. So we'll be running them all through the prism of one of our favorite questions: who's got the juice? And yep, I'm working it in. We're working it in one way or the other. Basically, if it's a who's got the juice episode, we're going to rely on some clips and do some reaction. And Dan and I have kind of kicked around some of these things, but for the most part, Tory she just comes in, we throw them up and see what kind of reaction we get.
It's just like in the moment, live, real, raw reactions.
That's right.
As my kids would say, in real life.
In real life. IRL.
Starts young. All right. So let's start with the Supreme Court striking a third and really effectively fatal blow to the Voting Rights Act that has been instrumental over the last half century in creating a far more diverse and truly representative democracy, with warts and all, but still much more representative than it was previous to the Voting Rights Act. Trump subsequently demanded that Republicans across the country halt elections and redraw their congressional maps to the GOP's advantage, setting in motion a new round of potential gerrymanders in states such as Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, maybe South Carolina, and others. But as civil rights attorney and influential scholar Sherilyn Ifill explains to Chris Hayes in the following clip, the ruling will literally change the complexion of Congress for decades to come, turning back the clock to Jim Crow era representation, decades in which Congress included 0 Black lawmakers, the exact circumstances the Voting Rights Act was intended to remedy back in Congress when Congress passed it in 1965. So let's roll that tape.
Just about a congressional district in Louisiana. This is about Black representation and voice. This is about multiracial democracy. So many of us, didn't live in the period when there was so little Black representation. You talked about the Reconstruction period. We had 8 Black members of Congress during Reconstruction. We didn't return to that number until 1969. Chris. And the reason we didn't return to that number is all the things that you've described. It was the Supreme Court really gutting the power of the 14th Amendment. It was violence. It was Congress not passing civil rights statutes. All of that was there. But if we think it can't happen, that's what happened. We had representation, and then we had none for decades because of voter suppression, because of gerrymandering, and so forth. And so this step by the Supreme Court is incredibly consequential and important, and we have to look at it with clear eyes.
So Tory, listen, I know that you have been, engaging in a number of meetings about this since the Calais ruling came down. And I'd love to hear your reflections on the decision and the fallout as you've been taking it in.
I know. I will say, I really do have my notepad. I have full disclosure, I'm not an election law lawyer or a Voting Rights Act lawyer. I have not read the opinion in full. I am paying attention to what lawyers around me, whose job it is to monitor these things, are saying. And I do want to make a shout out to some partners, community partners of ours that have done a really fantastic primer on this. One resource for people listening is Red, Wine, and Blue has a podcast. I'm in it this week. There's a new episode just out. But last week, they had a podcast with Janae Nelson. The podcast is also called How to Not Lose Your Shit, which seems appropriate right now. But they had Janae Nelson on, who is an attorney who actually argued on behalf of the Voting Rights Act before the Supreme Court, and she lays down all the ramifications. And so I was listening to her and others and parse this out in sort of a who, what, where,
Just
when,
about
why,
a
and
congressional
how.
district.
Wait, sorry.
Who, what, when, where, why, and what's the impact. Yeah. So I was listening to that podcast and I kind of pulled out some of the big who, what, when, where, whys, all that. And there's a couple of things that I just want to connect the dots for people for. Number one, this is a second iteration of a round of taking a stab. Like SCOTUS has literally taken a stab at the Voting Rights Act now a few times, starting in 2013. That's the first thing. And so the gutting has been over the past decade. And I want us to really sit with the year 2013. So for it to move up into the courts, for the Voting Rights Act to move up into the courts, for them to have in 2013 gutted Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which put down the pre-clearance safeguards. That means there was litigation starting in 2012. What else was happening in 2012? Barack Obama wins re-elect. What else is happening in 2012? Trayvon Martin is killed in Florida. What else is happening in 2012? People across the country are saying Black Lives Matter. Okay? I'm just saying, okay?
Yeah.
So that's happening in 2012. The Supreme Court picks up a VRA case in 2013. They got Section 5. Now they're coming after, now they came after Section 2. And Section 2 gives standing. That means can you sue under this law? And it also creates the rule about non-discrimination. They've taken both elements out. So it's like there's no fucking teeth, guys. There's no more teeth. So whether or not the Voting Rights Act still lives in some world, which it does, it's not altogether disappeared. There's just no way to enforce it anymore. Okay. The other thing I wanted to put together for folks is, what does this mean moving forward? Gwen Eifel's absolutely right. Of course she is. She's brilliant and she studied this. Sherilyn, it was not
Sherilyn Eiffel.
I saw you point your finger and I was like, it's the other Eiffel.
It's the other Eiffel. I just have to say,
both are brilliant though.
Both are brilliant. And I just have to say, every time I was saying, I was going over the script, I made the mistake myself because I'm a journalist. I'm very familiar with Gwen Eiffel, of saying Gwen and then thinking, no, Sherilyn.
Yeah.
So anyways, you're not alone is all I'm saying.
So I think one of the biggest things to keep in mind, she's talking about the math of what we lose and what was lost after Reconstruction and how long it took to gain it back. We lost 8 seats post-Reconstruction. Now we stand to lose 19. And that's now. MAGA is moving very, very fast. From Tennessee, Florida, to Alabama, to Louisiana. I mean, my gosh. And I would even connect the recent attacks on Fulton County workers again. Trump is going back after folks now. This is rampant enforcement on the others. If we no longer have teeth to enforce principles to build multiracial democracy, they're using every tooth they have to push down multiracial democracy. Right. We stand to lose 19 seats just right now. Yeah. And then the last thing I'll leave you with is, Yeah.
Can I add just one? The thing that Tory is talking about here with Trump and Fulton County is that he's ordered the Department of Justice to go back in and subpoena a bunch of like records and stuff from the election officials in Georgia. So he's like basically harassing them. The Trump's DOJ is basically harassing them because he's still on this whole 2020 was stolen jag that's been disproven a million times. Anyway, please go ahead, Tory.
The last thing I just want to say is like, what can we do about it? Right? It's like, again, you're not coming away to win because you're like, please tell us what the next phase of legal analysis should be. You're coming to us for like a plan around an electoral strategy. And I feel firmly that this continues to be a fight for the narrative and a fight for movements, that we are beyond litigation strategies at this point. The courts have shown us who they are. There will be other elements of, like there will be other parts of our ecosystem that take on the litigation fight, but also that's long term. And that we have to double down on real organizing, like real people talking to people, and then also getting online, which is increasingly a major factor of real organizing, because that's real people talking to real people too at a different scale. And so we need the both and effect. And I will say it's not the law stuff that moves people anyway. Like, I was privy to a conversation with movement elders who were around during the civil rights era. And they said that all that movement work got to policy gains, and then it quickly pushed those movements into enforcing their policy gains and pushed them into courtrooms. And when the movements were pushed into courtrooms, they lost a little of that magic street sizzle that like keeps energy alive. And it wasn't just on them, right? Like we know that the state went after movement leaders. We know that the state went after movement leaders. We know things like COINTELPRO now exist, right? So it's not just on them, but that is a factor to remember. Like a legal strategy, as much as some of us love to think about Atticus Finch, we love our Southern procedurals. We really do. It's a whole genre. There's a lot. Think about it. Think of how many Southern procedurals you guys can conjure in your head, because that's like, for whatever reason, that was the way we told stories about the South for a long period of time. We love it. The we love it are the nerds, not the real humans. So we've got to make this salient to their everyday lives. In any case, so that's my roundup on the VRA.
Okay. I got you, because I want to pick up at Trayvon Martin. For whatever reason, I went back and listened to the Ben Shapiro Ezra Klein interview from last year, and I don't. It was around the time of Charlie Kirk getting killed. I can't remember if it was before or after. And this is one of these things where we do the listening, so you don't have to do this. Someone had mentioned a throwaway reference that Ben had, or Shapiro had said, that the moment that he got radicalized, and a lot of people in the right wing got radicalized, wasn't the Trayvon Martin shooting. It was how Obama talked about it. And I don't know if you remember what this was, but it was like Obama was like, if I had a son, it could have been him. And it was like, I mean, when you actually listen to the quote, because like Ezra Klein plays the actual quote, you're like, wow, that is like the most anodyne like way of dealing with this thing, right? At all. And Ben's like, you can hear his like how freaked out he was by this. And he was like, well, Obama's kids are rich. They would have been fine, And there's this like vituperation in there. And it's just like, and then so later in the interview, he talks about, Ezra brings up the thing about like, are you really okay with what ICE is doing? Are you okay with the like cruelty that the White House has approached this with and how they're doing it? And he's like, oh, that's just a meme. Okay. So Obama talking about how his son could have been Trayvon Martin is an affront to like all that is holy about America. Like that's the only way I can sort of characterize like what Ben Shapiro's sort of approach to this is. And yet, anime cartoon of a woman being dragged off in chains by ICE sobbing is like just a meme, and it's no big deal. The degree to which racism has fried the right wing's brains is like, one of the first campaigns that I did way back in the day was building a multiracial coalition in a small city in California, in Santa Barbara, in a very weird politics place. I went through this whole process of like having to understand how important race is and what a big deal it is, which then like when I started to learn more about like national politics and like I was like, oh, it's the same thing, look, it's all this, it was like the perfect little microcosm, right? And I just haven't been thinking about that as much until this week because of the VRA. And like when we were going over the notes for the show, I was like, we got to talk about the VRA first, because like and like Tory, you mentioned the elders. God, I've been thinking about them a lot, and people who have worked their whole lives to see one of the crowning achievements of the civil rights era repealed. And like, I don't like listening to Ben Shapiro talking about, and like, and this was an interview about his book, which is all about the takers and the losers and the lions or whatever the fuck, like this, like, you know, like this whole really weird, like messed up sort of like defense of like conservatives and how things work. And like it's a really weird book, and his defense of it is weird. And like Ezra Klein like sort of calls him out on it, but of course can't really, right? Kind of agrees. Anyway, this is a lot of things, but it's we are going to tell a story about this, and I'm so glad that you had like ideas about where to go. And like this is wild what the Edmund Pettus Bridge work is being undone. This is a new level of this that is unreal. And
you know, I guess, I mean, I could cry. I could literally cry. It's just like
I've been dipping in and out of like
really
emotions like that. Like,
it's really bad. And it's also like
it's infuriating.
Yes, there was a whole generation that fought to make this happen. And I suppose the good news is we're not going to let it go. You know, there's a new generation. There is a set of generations now that recognizes how important this is. Like, I am heartened again to think back to my time in Selma this year with young people from HBCUs in Tennessee who are brilliant, just like totally rock star, charismatic, brilliant organizers who know what time it is and who are organizing, you know, their coalitions to move forward. So, you know, I'm heartened that it's not just you, it's not just the three of us, you know, like there's real deep planning happening out there. Like, whereas we may not be seeing kind of what we saw in 2017 with the quick flashpoint, you know, movement actions, that does not mean that there isn't like a set of conversations happening underneath the radar that are very important about what comes next. So I'm hopeful. And then the other thing that like to make us not get too nostalgic and make us cry, like I am also reminded that a number of people told us VRA wasn't enough, right? So like it already was a little toothless from the beginning. And so therefore, is this an opportunity to organize for the next phase, right? Like our Terrence Woodbury mantras of like the next world that we're building towards. Right. Let's take this lesson in.
Old one wasn't working. The current one is a horrifying disaster. What are we going to build now? We're not
let's take the lessons in. Let's make it better. Let's not just fight for the old status quo. Let's make it better.
Tory, are you getting any sense that because after, you know, Trump ordered the gerrymander in Texas, right? Then the Texas Democrats walked out. There was a national narrative that spread pretty quickly. Hey, you know, I mean, this was a messaging win for Democrats and particularly Texas Democrats. But like, hey, Trump/Republicans, they're trying to steal the election, right? And so then there was a little bit of a like, oh, focusing of attention and intent and whatever. And, you know, then Gavin Newsom, among others, sort of picked that up and ran with it. And we are where we are now, right? Which is pretty close to potential parity before this next round of gerrymanders. But do you get the sense that the message is starting to resonate, or are people talking about trying to make the message resonate about this, you know, extremely consequential blow to representative democracy?
That's a hard question to answer, only because I feel like we're in even though everyone knew this was coming, there is a little bit of shock doctrine, right? Like, you all know the Naomi Klein reference to shock doctrine where, you know, like there's a hurricane and everybody's like, oh crap, like, even though it's hurricane season, it's just a little shocking, right? So Calais comes, strikes like a lightning bolt last week. We all know it was coming, and yet we're all a little scattershot just because it's like, holy moly, it's here. And so I think that, like I said, I think the jerk reaction is to go into a conversation about the law. And that's not, even on that Chris Hayes clip that we played, that's not where she went. She went into like the long arc of history. So I think the more we can do that, the better, or not that precisely, but more we get out of the tit for tat, this is how these sections used to work, the better, because it's just meaningless to people.
Yeah, it's meaningless.
And then I would throw the question back at you all too, like tying together these threads between what we're learning from our Southern Battleground poll, right? What we're learning about kind of big guttural calls to action first, where you name a hero and a villain, and then you plot out, you give your audience some agency, and then tell them what to do, right? Like that seems to be some of the formula. Like, how do we plug this into the formula so that we can start testing it? I think that would be the direction I would head, is to make sure people see it's not a separate issue. This is just another way Trump is screwing you. He knows he knows he's underwater because gas prices are high. And so he's just looking for every other way he can hold on to power, because he's for him, not for you.
Right. Yeah.
That, I do think there's an underlying issue here too, which is like so much of what, like when you listen to how paranoid and how like Shapiro sounds scared in that interview. And I think he's scared. I mean, the reason the Trayvon Martin thing freaked him out is because he was like, well, we elected Obama. I thought that meant that everything was good. He kind of sounds like he actually, there was that whole thing that like, oh, this is post-racial America, that like, which I was laughed at, like I was like, anybody with a brain is like, what? No, but like, I think he really thought that like racism was going to be kind of over. And then when like Obama was like, wow, racism's totally not over, it like broke something in him. And like, I think that in this moment where the things have gotten so much worse for people, and then to like reach for the racism in this like kind of like ridiculous way, to the point that, in terms of making it tangible, if everybody lives in districts that aren't remotely competitive, that's bad for the entire country, right? That's if there's 3 competitive districts and each party is spending $1 billion in it, like that's ridiculous. Like it's, I mean, it's just making our system even more and more of a joke. And I've got to think at some point that kind of thing, because it does have a really real impact. Like if you're in a plus 40 or whatever district and there's nothing you can do, then that's going to help. I mean, I live in one of the bluest districts in the country, and I don't even think that's good. Like,
I want to wrap this up without leaving people feeling like, oh my God, we're ruined, because even with this new round of gerrymanders, there's already so much gerrymandering that there's only like a handful of seats at the moment that they can probably, well, Florida was going to do what it was going to do anyways, but in like Louisiana, Tennessee, that some of these others, I mean, Alabama, there's so much gerrymandering that there's like a handful of seats that they can possibly squeeze out. This could be an avalanche of voters, of anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, pro-democracy, and also you also please God do something about gas prices. This could be this. I just don't want people to walk away thinking we got no shot in November, because that's just absolutely not true. Like, Democrats are still poised to retake the House by any measure. And this doesn't affect the Senate map, right? So I don't want people to walk away. But if you do want something to tick you off, while Dan was going back and listening to Ben Shapiro, I was like, I need more Sherilyn Ifill. So I went back and listened to a few more interviews with her, and she reminded in her
Probably a
conver-
better use of your time.
our opposite direction.
Our one short time on this earth, I'm listening to Ben Shapiro and Ezra Klein.
So she was telling Jon Stewart that there was a young attorney in DOJ at some point in 1982 when Congress went back to give the Voting Rights Act more teeth. I won't go into process and all that stuff and what it would, but they went back to give it more teeth. And there was a young attorney at DOJ who was spearheading opposition to the more teeth, to don't pass this more teeth bill or, effort, right? Guess who that young attorney was? Any guesses? John Roberts. So John Roberts has been playing the freaking long game for a very long time, and he had it out for the VRA from the beginning. And if that doesn't tick you off, it sure ticked me off when I heard it. So, that is the type of energy that we can take into, maybe that doesn't work for the masses. It certainly works for me.
I know. I got one more plug because I know you want us to move on, but I got one more plug. Okay. Oh, the long arc. The next time we have power, my friends, please, can we not hesitate on using it to make massive reforms? I have lived through 2020 when a whole crew of people across the Democratic coalition came together in ways we are still not doing. Moderates, never Trump Republicans, lefties, progressives, your mom, your dad, we all sat at the table and we all came together and we defeated authoritarianism. Bravo for us. And then Biden moves into office and suddenly the coalition fractures over how far we should go on things like the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. There was really a moment where we could have passed so much more to get us out of a position that we're in. And people were so upset that it would upset people. And then you have Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin obstructing. And then Way to Win was early because we lead before the moment. And we had a primary cinema pack that we helped launch. And this was well before, Gallego was even on the list of people that we might support, but we knew she needed some pressure. And people were a little upset with us because they were like, why are you upsetting the apple cart? And it's like, guys, because this is the moment we're in. Look at today. So in any case, I just wanted to come back. I know nobody likes a woman who's got a little sour grapes. So I will turn my frown upside down. But I just wanted to call in all of our friends to remind us when we have power again, let's use it.
You know what they say about polite women? They never make history. Something like that. I can't remember the exact thing, but
one very last thing I just want to flag. I have a rant about long-term commitment to things that I'm going to table. We can move on.
Okay.
We need to talk about. I was just writing thing. We'll get a chance to discuss it. We can put it forward to a future event. But yeah, long term.
All right.
We got to begin here.
All right. Next up, in somewhat of a shocker, Maine Governor Janet Mills, who is 78 and relatively well-liked politician in the state, frankly, given where most politicians are these days, right, dropped out of the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate, leaving 41-year-old oyster farmer and Iraq War vet Graham Platner to sew up the nomination and take on longtime Republican Senator Susan Collins in November. So part of what's interesting here is that Mills ran really hard on electability. And this is a must-win seat for Democrats to have any hope of retaking the Senate. So it kind of makes sense that you would be like, hey, you might not like me more, or I might not be more inspiring or whatever, but I'm more electable. And in the last couple months of her bid, she started running attack ads against Platner, centering on a Nazi-themed tattoo that he has since inked over, and a series of problematic social media posts about things like rape and whatever. And he has made it through all of that. It doesn't matter. People decided that he was more electable. And he was trouncing Mills by roughly 30 points in several polls in March. While she was stuck in all, there were like 4 polls and he was trouncing her in every poll. But in 3 of these 4 polls in March, she was stuck at 28%, and he was either high 50s or low 60s. So he was just absolutely trouncing her. It's kind of wild. So anyway, Platner has shifted to his general election case now that he's making, and he's doing a thing we're starting to see from some Democrats, particularly 2028 hopefuls, which is appeals to Trump voters. Like, kind of reminds me of the endless press coverage we saw of diner chats with Trump voters. I don't know. Maybe he's onto something. Like, maybe it's not that bad. But let's listen to a clip of his campaign put out of a discussion he had with a 3-time Trump voter.
My friends are like 3-time Trump voters. And, like, I didn't vote for Trump, but like, I very much understand why people did.
10 years ago, Trump decided to run, and he spoke my language. And I voted for him again. I voted for him 3 times. I'm questioning pretty hard on things.
Talk to friends of mine who like don't live in Maine or don't live in rural areas, who are always just like, I don't get it. I'm like, man, like, everybody down here feels like they're getting robbed. And Trump came along and told us that, one, you are getting robbed. Meanwhile, everybody else is telling us that everything's good. They're like, the system's great and we should protect it. And Trump said, the system is screwing you.
Do you think he convinced you to vote for him?
Oh, I was going to vote for him anyway. Yeah, I haven't really been keeping it a secret.
Okay, a lot to chew on there. Mills didn't have the juice in that primary, but is this the juice we need in the general election? Would be my question.
I'm doing the off the cuff reaction. I'm just like, I don't know if it's the juice we need, but certainly I was like looking up how people used to describe Johnny Cash's voice as a slow chugging train. So maybe that's part of the juice.
Sure.
It's just being able to talk like a man. Good for Graham. I think, you know what it is? I think what Graham successfully delivers time and again is, I will fight for you. Like, I was a kid, I made youthful mistakes, I've fought for others. Like, I'm not establishment, I will fight for you. I'm listening to you, I'm fighting for you. And that feels like the winner. That feels like the winning message.
For sure, like, a lot, to the point that, like, it's still, like, this is, again, like, stepping back, when we step back from the VRA thing, I can't believe this is happening in the arc of history. A sort of establishment aligned, very establishment aligned candidate didn't make it to the primary versus a newcomer who has never held office. Like, that doesn't,
Huge big
that
deal.
hasn't happened. Sometimes I have these conversations with our 15-year-old where I'm like, there wasn't a Trump, there wasn't COVID, none, like, there wasn't AI, none of these are new things. Like, this is like, I've been doing this now for whatever 20 some odd 5 whatever ish years.
It's funny.
That's never, nothing like that.
Like,
The establishment always crushed us from everything that I've ever been
here's
involved
something
in.
like, you had to stick a pencil in a plastic cartridge and go like, we had to swing it around to rewind the feet. Okay, Dan, I agree with you though. Even in recent history, like, it is true. I have seen a number of primary fights where there's a upstart challenger who will fight for people and a Democratic establishment who's been blessed by, the powers in Washington, and they get trounced.
The upstart gets crushed like a bug. That's how it's always been.
Yeah.
I started out in the Dean campaign. It was the army of guys with $400 coats, came into Iowa, and they were all John Kerry supporters, and it was over.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of saw that in the Biden primary, didn't we? I mean,
sure. Right. Those people get what they want, and they're not getting what they want right now, and that's a big deal. And I haven't even gotten my head around it.
Well, but what is the difference? I mean, the difference is the moment, right? Back to the who is going to fight for you. The second is, I do think Graham and his team uniquely, like, they are like an Obama, or like a Zoran, or like a Jasmine Crockett. Like, they uniquely know how to just like get into the system, and like people know who they are, and they're using traditional media, they're using new media, and like the fact that you and I, really and truly, I know we care about the Senate pickup, but the fact that like someone from California, someone from Texas, and someone from, where are you? Oregon, Washington,
Pacific Northwest, darn it.
Yeah,
Used to be in California,
The
but
fact that
Oregon
we
now.
all know exactly who this man is and could probably repeat the top points of the parts of his bio everybody wants you to know means like they're in the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you just can't fight with that by the time the establishment comes around. Cuomo couldn't.
Well,
Yeah.
and people don't trust the establishment anymore. People have been voting for the establishment for years. And I think it's really getting to the point where they're like, we keep voting for the people you say we should vote for. And you know what? Things don't seem great. Things don't seem great. Not at all. And in that video, I watched a portion of it several times. I didn't watch the whole thing. It was a little long. But anyway, Platner very correctly sort of diagnoses the system isn't working. He talks about what Trump did, right? And Trump said, the system isn't working. And guess what? You think you're getting screwed, and you are, right? He validated, like Trump had a way of validating how people felt about the system that won a lot of people over. Now, he is doing nothing to fix that system now that he has the power to fix it. He's only enriching himself, but he correctly diagnosed it, and then he like validated it. And basically, Grant Platner says, look, I get why people wanted to potentially vote for Bernie and also Trump. Like there were the Bernie Trumpers, right? That were like into either or. And he then, offers himself up as someone who will fight the system because the system has screwed you.
That's the thing that like Jen, our CSO, our CSO, listeners know our CSO, that Jen will say a lot, and I agree, which is like populism isn't partisan. Populism isn't ideological. You can have Zoran or Bernie or Trump saying, I will fight for you, and people will believe it or they won't, but that's not inherently left or right. It's just fighting for people to make their lives better. And I think Graham's tapped into that for sure. Either that or it's his baritone hypnotizing us a la Johnny Cash. It's hard to know.
That was close. I'm obsessed with this Ben Shapiro thing, right? Because this is
sounds like
his whole. You should, 'cause you and I torture each other with like difficult, right? Like we both listened to the Peter Thiel Antichrist podcast of that there's a whole episode, right? Know Your Enemy was give the shout out to them because it was a fantastic episode, and props to them for doing the hard work of listening to this stuff. His whole thing is that this populism thing is this is bad news. He actually doesn't like this part of MAGA, which I wasn't aware of, but he thinks that this is like it's all resentment. He thinks that like if people are sort of like if there's like homeless people and people who like who are working and can't afford food, that they just resent the people who are doing well. Like it's such a bizarre world, like paranoid, like gross, icky worldview to even like sort of think about and to get stuck in. But it is sort of making me wonder if there's a sort of moment. I was watching a little bit of the California governor's debate last night, and Tom Steyer posted the thing afterwards. He was like, should I make these hats? And it said class trader on them. And I almost think this is sort of a moment for class traders where like I'm a little bit of a class trader. Like I could have stayed in tech and like made way more money than I ended up making, right? And like I'm in a small way, I'm sort of doing the class trader thing a little bit, and like, but like I'm not jealous. Like I don't like. That's bizarre. Don't put that on me. Like that's just a weird boundaries thing that you have, Ben Shapiro. It's not envy based. Like I could have been rich if I wanted to. Like it's like the world is fucked up, and I wanted to work on that. I left the tech industry to do this because it's like, look around. So
yeah.
Okay, we have another option for
which does connect to Graham Platner in some way.
Which does. We have another option for how you can paint yourself as someone who is, who is a fighter against both Trump and the system and distancing yourself from establishment Democrats. And this is out of San Francisco. It's sort of an off the beaten path counterpoint to Platner's diner outreach. And it comes from a progressive Democrat named Shoykat Chakrabarti, who's running to replace the open seat left by the retirement of longtime Democrat and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I actually don't know where this race stands, but Dan showed me this ad and I was like, oh my God, amazing. It's worth noting here for our listeners that Chakrabarti is a former chief of staff to AOC who has declined to endorse or take any position at all. That's not really what was worth noting. Sorry. I want our listeners to know, sorry about that, that this ad, the visual cues in this ad very much look like a typical prescription drug ad for something like Ozempic. So let's roll.
There's like, seriously, Kerry's not kidding. There's a middle-aged dad, like a running middle-aged dad, and that's with like in a sunshine thing. It's if you're watching, you're just listening, you got to go find us on YouTube.
But even the listen, when I first heard the clip just in pre-production, I was like, wait, someone needs to turn off their MS now.
Yeah, no, it works. Oh my God, totally. It's amazing. It does work. The audio works well. All right, here, I'll play the clip.
Living with moderate to severe oligarchy and rising authoritarianism, the economy holds you back. But now there's Shoykat Chakrabarti, so you can change the Democratic Party to better fight Trump. Shoykat Chakrabarti works 24/7 to lower your cost of living and challenge the status quo. Ask your democracy if Shoykat is right for you. Change the party with Chakrabarti. Side effects include taxing the rich, building new housing, investing in transit-safe neighborhoods, and driving Trump crazy.
I'm Shoykat Chakrabarti, and I approve this message.
All right.
It's just so good. It's like
it's really nicely done.
It's really good, right? It's a little throwbacky with like fonts. It looks a little like Three's Company-esque on the beach of California. I know it's northern and not southern. I know the difference between San Diego.
But it would work. It's in Fort Mason. So I said something nice about this on social media somewhere, and one of the consultants pinged me, and he was like, "Hey, if we're making these if you need help, right, And I was like, "Does it test well?" And he said, "Oh yeah, we're testing everything really aggressively." Because I was like, what I wasn't sure about was the change the party thing is a little inside baseball for us.
But maybe he needs some inside baseball. Maybe he has to define himself with like we are talking about it. Like maybe like anyone with a name that is not like the most familiar ends up doing a little bit of education for the choir about how to say their name. I would not have known how to say Chakrabarti without the change the party. And so then it's allowing the choir to learn the hymn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe there's an element of that, even if it's not persuasive, it has a purpose.
Yeah.
As
for where this race stands, I actually have a little basic information on this because it's my old district. Jennifer and I lived in the Castro that was right in the center of this. And the guy that he's running against, Scott Wiener, there's two candidates that are like ranking. I think there maybe are 2 or 3 others that are lower down. There's an Asian woman whose name I'm going to blank on, and I didn't look it up. And then there's Scott Wiener is ahead right now, has the most name recognition. He's kind of the establishment anointed person. He's been a politician for ages. I remember walking against his opponent when he first ran for not even before he ran for assembly, like maybe city council, even like this was now. Yeah. Maybe pushing 20 years ago.
I remember him, and I lived in San Francisco, like in the Castro and DuBose Triangle and whatever around 2000 to 2003.
Okay, I didn't know that we were neighbors. Oh no, sorry, that was before we moved there. We moved in 2005. So anyway, right. So and Scott has been, a San Francisco moderate. One of the things that people don't know about San Francisco is that it has this like swirl of like kind of like reactionary, like there's like the reactionary moderation, maybe or reactionary centrism would be maybe one way to put it, but almost like really conservative. Like homeowners who own houses in San Francisco are like mad about crime and mad about homelessness and like won't necessarily like support lefty things to do that and feel like the schools are failing and all these things. and have tons and tons of money. So
Yeah,
there's even though it has this reputation of being very, very left, there's like Scott is nobody's idea of a like flaming lefty. He's also a pretty good dude and like has been leading on housing and has been, I don't have any personal animus or like feel like he's not a good, lawmaker. But then in comes Schweikart, and there's this like insurgent thing that's happening. It's a top 2 primary. It's like last I saw, Wiener was in the 40s and Chakrabarty was in the 20s, right? So I don't know how it's going to play out, in the final election. But
ton of undecideds.
It's undecided, right?
And he's fighting the name recognition battle there. So, but
yes,
but
sure,
look, this
right.
is where Mamdani started. I don't want to make a direct correlation, but he started out of nowhere, no name recognition, nothing. Had to teach people about his name and that whole thing. So
Obama did the same thing. There were early name conversations. I will tell you who did it late, Kamala Harris. I remember it wasn't until the DNC. Yeah, when they had Kerry Washington up there with Kamala's nieces. They're so sweet and cute. And they had the nieces doing the chant. It's just yeah.
So cute.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
Oh alas.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I think we are talked out. Are we talked out? Did we do it?
I mean, Dan and I can go on for a minute longer, but I don't know that the listeners want that.
We're going to open the floor for Dan. He's going to dive back into the Ben Shapiro interview.
Yeah, right.
God only knows where that lands
the
us.
surface of the Ben Shapiro.
Okay, for our listeners, here's the news. This is just an intermission. We're going to play all the ads one more time, give you a break, go grab your coffee, go to the bathroom, come back. Just kidding.
Dan is going to remix them for a special part 2 episode with Dan, the DJ of Destiny, remixing all of these with something that's very danceable that you can do on your workout. So inspiration. Thank you to the Santa Cruz Regional Burning Man burn this weekend. I had some really good music inspiration, and I'm ready.
Maybe like holiday or like some kind of post-election holiday time where we talk about all our favorite movies and all our favorite music, and we just like really shake it all up. We can do some special
like the 3 media things that we do when we have guests, but like an all media episode.
Yeah, dude, I can tell you all about the Southern procedurals.
Yes, we can do a Southern procedurals thing this week. Another group that has the juice. Oakland Unified School District, Oakland High School had one of the shows that the kids watched was Chernobyl. They watched episode 1 of Chernobyl.
Wow.
Which is such a perfect thing to show high school kids right now. Every lie incurs a debt to the truth. That was one of the lines that came out of this. And like Mark and I, like we watched the rest of it. And like this is in the last episode of it. And we were both just like, oh, it's so good, right?
Dang.
So yeah, it was a great thing. And we could do just a media episode for sure.
So either like and subscribe now to make sure you catch all of our pop culture references, or avoid that time period. Thank you very much.
There you go. Thank you, Tory and Dan, for a compelling conversation as always. And to our listeners, as Tory says, join us and subscribe. It's an exciting year full of both pitfalls and opportunities, and we are here to walk with you through all of it. If you didn't catch the news coverage of our very timely Southern Battleground survey last week, check our Way to Win social accounts on Blue Sky, LinkedIn, X. It's all there for you, the links to the coverage and to the poll itself. And with that, until next week, do good, be well, hug your loved ones, and tell your dog I say hi.